look, man, it's such an honor and a privilege, I think, to be amongst all of you guys. And unfortunately, due to time, I'll have to, make things a bit quicker than they should have been. But I think from, the person who started the show, to all the speakers really that have been here. So I have the hardest job because, when people have already spoken, now the question is meeting again. Sekuphelele impela sekuvele waqhubeka nje lokho efunda ibhayo bese lingishaye izandla. I said my job would have been that, But I thought then we would speak about something that has been bothering me now for some time, And I'll make a disclaimer: this is not the truth. These are merely hypotheses that I'm making up for the sake of us getting to connect. So what I would actually hope is that we could engage in a matter of questions and just engage as a dialogue so that I don't spend, let's say, more minutes trying to speak, but more minutes trying to have a conversation with you guys. Yeah? And I have to also say that I think since COVID, I haven't really been doing this a lot, obviously for many reasons we put it. But for the second reason, which has been for the greater part of my career, 7 years, all the things that you mentioned, all of us reach a breaking point where now you've went as far as achieving all the dreams that you sort of wanted to achieve. You want to be on a plane, you want to go travel the world, be in international countries, be the best-selling author, da 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 da. And then you get all those things, and then now you start to ask yourself, this is it. Like I'm done now, I guess. I started believing in my head. And I think all of us, when we hear, there's this feeling about us that sometimes we think, hey man, maybe actually if I can get 1, 2, 3, my life would be 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we shouldn't believe that things can change, but I'm just saying things can only change if we ourselves are willing to appreciate the change in itself.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share with you guys a story because I think most of us here lean towards the Christian proclivity. And I'll just joke around with the story, but I hope you guys will get exactly why the story has to be in this way, right? So the story begins, there's one guy sitting in the corner of nowhere, literally everywhere and everything at the same time. So this guy is sitting there, man, and he thinks, okay, well, this is good. I've really created all these great things around me, but then I'm asking myself, what else can be done? So this guy then decides, hey, but I've got all these animals, I've got all this land, but I don't want to be the one who actually manages all these things. So maybe I can find someone who can take care of these things, So then God then goes to the dust and then creates a human being. Then he says, okay, I'm going to call you Adam. That's going to be your name. Then Adam comes along and then God says, okay, look, so that I can get you to start thinking, look at all these things around you, and what I need you to do is give them a name. Because then that was the first process that Adam as a being had to start thinking pretty much, right? So then Adam goes around and says, okay, no, that's a cow, that's a dog, that's going to be a tree, we're going to call that strawberry. God says, oh man, you're really good. I mean, I can't question it, it's really your job. Then this other day, God and Adam are taking a walk as they usually do. And then Adam is like, but why can't we not me one? They're going to more create a own king to hamba na something. Why we don't ngenzeli planning so that now I can have something that I can talk to pretty much, Then God is like, okay, I'll make a plan. Then he sleeps, took one of his ribs and then said, okay, fine, wake up. Now you do me Adam then says, oh man, this is bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. But this is really good, God. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. God's like, now you're welcome, son. And then now, the next day, Adam and Eve now, they're taking their walk. And as they're taking their walk, Eve is like, why shouldn't we eat this tree? I don't understand, because each and everything here belongs to us, So why don't we just taste it and then say, but we should we're not going to do that. Then they leave, and then the snake eventually comes to us like, yeah, you want to actually taste the tree. Maybe we could give you. Do you mind? How if we are so then they eat, and then now the next day, uNkulunkulu ushamara le wona ufuna ukuchecka as they usually do. We have how adamu. Isifihlile lana. Now imagine you are a being, you're trying to hide yourself from someone who's omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient. So this is a being that is everywhere all the time in each and every place, and you are hiding behind the bush. Interesting enough, so uNkulunkulu uthi awunifihlile, kwenze njani? If I type in asigqokanga manje, so hamba kanjani singagqokanga? Kumele sithole something. God is like, okay, isifihlile, come this side, you know? That God is like, okay, because you guys have decided to not adhere to my instructions, so what we want to do, you will work the rest of your life, right? For you, there's no day off, you're going to work. Then because of what you did, you're going to have to carry the human life for 9 months, you know, because this is now your punishment for having ate from the tree of good and evil, or the good of knowledge, or the tree of knowledge, depending on how you guys explain it. So now, the real question is, why is that story the way that it is? What does it mean for you and I? Because it's the story that has lasted for centuries and centuries, and man, it keeps on repeating, and no one can question that story. And so now you wonder and think, okay, did then God intend for us to not know what is right and wrong? That's a question, you know, we don't know. And then we look at the next story, pretty much Cain and Abel. We've got one guy who's doing all the good things, God gives him the blessing. Then Cain is like, but now I'm doing the same things. Why is God not also giving me what I guess belongs to me? You know, am I not doing enough? Am I not favored? And then Cain then goes into isolation. He then decides, I failed it. The only thing I can do, I'm going to kill this guy. Then that's where you experience death. So these two stories have fascinated me for so long. Because I think what the stories are trying to talk about is many of the things that we've already had. And that speaks to the fact that we as human beings and how we see life, it has been predicated on the fact that we are good in our nature, but there's also a part of us that is not good. Which is why when you go to a church environment or we are with believers, they'll call it a sin. You go to another place, they'll call it something else. But all these things, what they are trying to speak to is that as human beings, we often wonder, or we think, how can I be this good? How can I believe in God? How can I do all the right things? But I'm still bothered by wicked thoughts. But I'm still bothered by these thoughts that are not positive. And then we also wonder and ask ourselves then, why is that people already know that there's choice of friends, choice of time, and also choice of thought? Why aren't we moving to the phase that we all want to move to? And I think that my hypothesis would then go as far as to say, I believe that a lot of the things that we're struggling with are the things we have to confront, because if we do not confront them, these are things that will run our lives subconsciously and even unconsciously so. And that is to say, for as long as when we see ourselves, because what it even means, what I'm trying to understand is also that if then Jesus died for our sin, does it then mean that for us as human beings, we are incapable of sin? Which is not true, right? And then we go back to the first story. So what essentially was happening between Adam and Eve? They found themselves to be naked, right? That's the first principle. What does nakedness mean? Nakedness presents self-awareness. What is self-awareness? Self-awareness is when we have to look at parts of ourselves that we are not comfortable with and parts of ourselves that we rather keep in a closet. So what they finally encountered was, man, we've been naked all this time, but now maybe we can start looking at ourselves differently. Because God knew that eventually they were going to go to the tree, and when they do that, they will finally have to pay the price of what it means to know what is right and what is wrong. And that's what I believe the story of Adam and Eve presents, that even for you and I, what it therefore means is that now that you've accepted God as your Lord and Savior, you've found a particular faith, it does not mean that you are now, excluded from the fact that you're going to do bad things. But what it really means is that even when you do these bad things, you can always fall back into the goodness of who you are and who God created you to be. But also, you cannot go to that place until you've actually encountered these things for yourself. Which is why, for instance, you find a lot of people who keep asking themselves, but then, I've been baptized, I go to church every day, but why are things not changing? And I believe that if we can start to confront this part of ourselves that we're afraid of, we can have more courage. Because come to think of it, when you look at anyone today whom we regard to be successful and whom we regard to be whatever it is the word success means, I would argue that we all know the weaknesses of that individual. And it is because we know their weaknesses that we actually think this person, this vulnerable being, can actually be this good that they can create so many great things. But what happens between you and I, we immediately discover our weaknesses and our vulnerabilities, and then we lock ourselves in, and then we think, then that's it. We then believe that that's the end. But what then happens is that once you've experienced the part of you that is weak and vulnerable, you can now appreciate the good and positive side of you. But if you don't start there, you will never know. Which is why, for instance, when you mentioned the different prophets who had to go into isolation. For us in our generation, I guess it's taking time off from social media. I don't know when last I was there, probably 2020 or something like that. Simply because of, there are things that you as an individual have to go through and experience for yourself that you can actually come back and be able to give others the truth, the way and life as Jesus called it, which is what all of us here are striving to do. So the question that I have, and this is where I want to engage with you guys, probably start something speaking, but in any case, the MC will tell me. What are the things that make us naked? I'm just going to start and then you guys can, say that. And so the first thing, maybe we would say low self-esteem. Those are the things that make us to feel naked in our lives. Self-esteem, yeah? All right. How about body image? Can we say body image is also a part? Yeah. All right, cool. Can we also say an inferiority complex? The idea that I'm lesser to the next person? Are these things that make us feel naked? Great. Could we also say then that maybe when you look at yourself as an individual, that comparison, that maybe you look at a son and then you look at yourself and like, hey, but I'm not like this guy. Can we actually say these are the things that also make us feel naked? All right, you guys can help me out. What's the fifth thing? What are some of the things we struggle with that would make us feel naked or even feel lost?
Self-doubt.
Self-acceptance, yeah. Self-doubt, yeah. What else? What else have we got? Fake friends, good one. Fake friends, of course you need. What else have we got? What else have we got?
Lack of self-confidence.
Self-confidence, great.
Self-hate.
Self-hate, great. Now, the question then remains, now that we are aware of the things that make each of us naked, what do you guys then think is the way for us to address this thing? Is it running away? Okay. Is it projecting and maybe blaming the world and blaming the neighbor?
No.
Okay, clearly not. Is it then the idea of locking ourselves in our own room in isolation? Definitely not. What's the other way then that we can confront these things? It's the acceptance. Good one. What's the other thing? Conversations, yeah. Looking for one last thing, yeah? Reaching out, right? Great. What's the one other thing?
The Christian will say dying to yourself. Dying to yourself.
Dying to yourself?
I can unpack it for one.
Maybe in a minute, yeah?
We all have weaknesses in this place. So what I found the most is that some people, because of the weakness that they have, they don't actually do what God wants them to do because they have this big just say, okay, maybe I was doing this yesterday, but God actually, like he was saying about David, God knew what David was doing. But the issue is he was looking at his heart. So if David just died to who he was, he would have been something here.
Wow. One last one, guys. I'm looking for one last one. Alright. Going once, twice, thrice. The one last thing that is very, very important, and perhaps I will close on this because we mentioned self-acceptance, finding help, it's forgiveness. I feel like a lot of us got lost because we thought, how can I be this bad? And then how can I be loved by a God that is so righteous and so perfect?
Yeah.
We then thought, how can I, having these thoughts, having viewed myself in this way, having done all these bad things, that we actually thought we are beyond saving? That we actually concluded that by virtue of being this particular person, I'm beyond redemption. It's forgiveness. The way to self-acceptance, to self-awareness, to self-actualization is forgiveness. Because how could you die and be persecuted for things that you had not known? How could you punish yourself for things and decisions that you took pre-self-awareness? How could it be that your whole entire life will end by virtue of that you did not know? And how true is it that Jesus said, Lord, please forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing? And that is to say, before we can seek anything external to ourselves, you have to forgive yourself. I've had a hard time in my life where a lot of my anger and a lot of my frustration was pushed towards my father. A lot of it. Because I'm looking at it, I'm like thinking to myself, how could this guy get 4 kids and then he decides to leave us? Now I'm left with the mother and I keep having to relocate from one township to the other. How could it be that we don't grow from a stable home? How could it be that I do not have a place called home whereas I was given birth by both parents? And how could it be that my life can be this way when it wasn't even my decision to come here on earth? And a lot of my anger at the time of me having to confront it was to accept it. Which is why my first book had to affirm my identity, because at the time, that's the thing I needed the most. I had to say, hey man, I'm young, black, and powerful. And because of that message and how that message did, it gave me hope. And the many other people that I've witnessed, I don't know how many times I've spoken so far, but each and every one connects to that. Not because you are young, black, and powerful, but because all of us have got a pain, all of us have got a struggle, all of us have got a suffering that we have. But until we can forgive ourselves, it will be much, much more harder for us to reach a place of self-actualization, self-acceptance. It is so that even in believing in God, we have thought that, man, I have to be perfect. I have to know the way. I have to know all the verses in the Bible. But then God says, come as you are. It didn't say, for you to believe in me, you need to tick these boxes. But a lot of our faith is predicated on external validation. Because a lot of our faith has to do a lot of checklists that I have to be at church on this day, and for as long as these particular people see me, we think that's what faith is about. But the truest of faith is measured by the relationship that you have with God. Because at the end of the day, whether it be the pastor or your church, whatever the case is, it's only your journey. And it's about how do you take that journey yourself and move forward with it. But until we forgive ourselves, it will be way much harder for us to reach the things that we want to reach. And most importantly, a lot of people actually say, philosophers too, they say, the thing that we are most looking for in life, we have to look for them in places that we do not want to go. Yeah. Because where fear is, lies our gift. Where fear is, lies the answers that we need. And a lot of fear is there to stop us from actually finding the truth for ourselves. Because fear is the list that we gave, not loving yourself, self-hate, self-doubt, lack of confidence. That's all fear. Because fear makes you believe that you're not going anywhere. There's no way that someone like you can be confident, can believe in themselves, can follow their dreams, and can be who they want to be. And so fundamentally, my talk, whatever this thing I'm doing, it's really about trying to understand who am I as an individual. What are the things that make me to be who I am? Is it my external environment that I'm born poor, I don't have my father, and maybe I have a lack of identity and all these things? Is that who I am? And also in finding myself, does that then mean in knowing that these are the things that make me naked? Is that all of it? You said when you were sitting here that I wear shades, and this is just a personal comment, okay? You said, I have to wear these things because I'm shy. But it's interesting because when you start to do your thing, you start walking around. And a shy person wouldn't do that. And a shy person wouldn't sit here and say, I'm shy. So if I were you, I would actually ask myself, to whom am I shy to? To what is the cause that I have conditioned myself, that with this gift and this talent that I have to say, I'm shy. To whom has then the degree and the capacity to deem and view me as an individual that is categorized themselves as shy. What is that? Because until we can confront those parts of ourselves that immediately jump to say, Junagi shy, Nava Tavandrati, Nagi Bian Bian, it's very easy for you to do that because that's what fear conditions you to be. But it's another thing for you to say, yeah, I am shy. Maybe I don't have as much confidence, but that's not all there is to me. So I guess maybe that can help someone. So yeah. Thanks.